Hello and welcome. I'm Kamla. Today my guest is Jaigirdar, who is associated with Third Eye Film Festival that's going to be showing next week in San Francisco. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Thanks for having me.
So, why did it take so long for a South Asian film festival to finally materialize? This is the 10th year?
Yes, this is our 10th year. I think it's probably critical mass. I think that's one of the things that comes to mind. I mean, I think there was South Asians in the Bay Area for 100 years. But I think only in the last 15 to 20 years that there's been a lot of South Asians, say, for example, in the San Francisco area. And I think that and probably the whole, sort of confluence of, literature coming from, say, India to England, music also, and sort of cross-pollination between sort of Eastern and Western music, literature, and film. And I think eventually it ended up in the US, and I think then San Francisco it was the right time and place, and we started it.
You went to Berkeley?
Yes.
So Berkeley has had South Asian students coming there for over 100 years. So I guess my question again, circling back, is 10 years, what was it like the first year? Because this is right after 9/11. And what was the first year like when you had the film festival?
Well, we had actually started before 9/11, but just as monthly screenings. So the festival was just an accumulation of, we just grew very quickly. We started with 1,000 people and then suddenly 6,000 people. So we had no choice but to go to the festival. But when it did start, yes, there was 9/11, and we did show some films in reaction to that, like Valerie Kaur's Divided We Fall. And so that dealt with the crisis and how a lot of South Asians had been targeted, and gave voice to a lot of issues at the same time. So yeah, it was for several reasons, but I think again it was the right time to start the festival too.
Okay, you have a very interesting name, Ivan Jaigirdar, and that has it's French, Ivan?
Yes, it is French. I mean, it's a combination. My dad's Bengali, my mother's French, so her side was Ivan, and so my last name is Jaigirdar, so it's a combination of the two.
So films and food were twin passions in your house?
Always, yes.
Okay.
Yes, very true.
Very true. So you watch a lot of French films?
Yes, in fact, I grew up on European cinema as a staple diet.
Not Bollywood?
No Bollywood. In fact, I sort of looked down on Bollywood. It took me a long time to sort of get to the gateway drug of Bollywood and then into South Asian cinema.
Gateway drug?
Yeah, Bollywood is a gateway drug. In fact, at the festival, that's how we sort of view it in some ways. We have only one Bollywood film every year, but we try and get it as campy and cheesy and glitzy. And a lot of people come to that, and then they suddenly go towards the artsy films too.
Okay. You know where my question is leading, because you look down on Bollywood and you didn't grow up with Bollywood. How is that? How did you escape growing up in France and England? How did you escape not watching Bollywood films?
Yeah, I think it's partially due to the fact, having a French mother, we didn't sort of, and a father actually he'd done his studies in economics, but he'd also done it in film, and his focus was also European film. So I think that was part of it. But yeah, many reasons. But I think eventually it started creeping up, and I think at the time also, Bollywood cinema hadn't sort of shifted as it has now. It's more, let's say, palatable to a Western eye or audience.
But in the 70s and 80s, there were these art films that were palatable, that may have appealed to the Europeans.
Yeah.
You didn't see those?
It wasn't part of my periphery at the time. I was very much in a more, rural at times setting and an urban setting too, but more sort of focused Eurocentrically. And also I think the South Asian, again, a critical mass of South Asian hadn't sort of built up at the time.
Okay. So your hyphenated existence was mostly Bengali and French.
Yes.
And then the Bollywood element enters once you come to Berkeley. Do you remember the first few films that you watched, Bollywood films? Would you walk away when they turned them on?
Yeah, I definitely poo-pooed them. And I think gradually it dawned on me, this is an art form that needs to be looked at. And I think a friend of mine who was a professor in Indian cinema was telling me about how they're like 8 senses in Bollywood that needs to be tapped, or something like that, more than your usual 6 senses. And that really got me intrigued, how they focus on all the senses, and so that when you go to a movie, you end up laughing, crying, and, all the melodrama gets to you, and it just emotionally gets to you on a visceral level.
This is the older Yvonne speaking.
Yes, this is the older Yvonne. So yes, then you get into that melodrama factor. And it's very cathartic.
Okay. It's very cathartic, but your film festival just has one Bollywood film, and the rest are all artsy. And sometimes underground?
Yeah, they're definitely artsy, and we try and also do out-of-the-box films, which...
Like?
I'd say we have a couple. One is, say, for example, Lucky. It's not necessarily out of the box, but it deals with different sort of perspectives of South Asians. So Lucky is a film made in South Africa by a British-Indian psychiatrist, and it's about an elderly Indian woman in South Africa who has this challenging relationship with a young Zulu boy who's just been orphaned because his mother died of AIDS. So it's that sort of unusual relationship that's looked at, and a sort of unique perspective of South Asians in that context.
So the film festival looks at the South Asian diaspora all over the world. So you get films wherever they are made.
Yes.
How do you start the process? How early in the year do you start the process? Because this happens every September.
Right.
And do you start a year before the show, or do you start 3 months before?
Yeah, I think we start even now. When we see films that we haven't got a hold of for this festival, we're always going, let's try and get it for the next one then. So yeah, it's a constant process. It's like you're looking at things that pop up at other festivals, and you're looking at things that are going to come up. And I think one of the things about being like 10 years old is like you've built up relationship with filmmakers. And so they made a film 10 years ago, and then now you show a film 10 years in, and they keep in touch with you, and they sort of tell you ahead of time, I'm going to have a film for you next year. So for example, Lucky, we actually showed the director of Lucky, Avi Luthra, all his short films. He started off like 10 years ago, we'd show every year a short film of his. And then 2 years ago, he made his first feature, and this is finally the feature he's always wanted to make. So.
And has it made the Toronto Film Festival? Has it done the other circuit?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So the circuit, I guess, is first you look at Toronto Film Festival, and then you vet some of the films there.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh, yeah.
So you got it fresh off of Toronto.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to premiere it in San Francisco. Yeah.
And what was that like?
That was actually a thrilling experience, and I think that it was a sort of accumulation of a lot of things, again, in that I think we didn't realize what a big hit Slumdog would be, but we were fortunate enough to show it at the Castro, and Castro seats about 1,500 people, I think 1,500, and we packed the Castro, and there was just such an ambiance, since I can throw in the French, that it was electrifying, and you could feel that film was something special. And I think that's the joy of doing films at the Castro and the Roxy Theatre too. There's independent theatres, and I think they're places to show certain films. And the Slumdog was perfect. So
you usually show at the Roxy and the Castro.
Yeah,
those are the two theatres of choice. And how do you get the funding for your film festival? Is it tough to get funding?
I think initially it was, but we were fortunate enough to get like San Francisco Arts Commission, NEA, National Endowment for the Arts. So we started off getting all these sort of city, state, and national grants. And then we got into corporate funding and also individual funders. So we've done the gamut.
Okay.
And also, just to add, this is the first year we'll also have a film in some of the films in San Jose at Camera 12. So it's the first time we're moving into the South Bay.
South Bay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're showing a film called Big in Bollywood, and Omi Vaidya is going to be there. Vaidya
is going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay. Shouldn't have corrected you. So the film festival is from the 19th to the 23rd of September, and it's going to be starting at the Castro and Roxy, and then on the 30th in San Jose.
That's right.
Let's talk about the opening night film, The Island President.
Yes.
It's won the Cadillac Film Award in Toronto, the People's Choice Award, and a bunch of other. And the film, the director is a local Bay Area
Jon
person.
Shenk, yes.
Yes. So how did you choose that film?
Part of Third Eye's mission is to really broadcast certain major issues. Actually, we have two other small mini festivals throughout the year. We also have monthly screenings. But one of our mini festivals is titled Third Eye's Green Eye, which is a South Asian lens on the environment. So we, no pun intended, we've always had an eye on this particular film, The Island President, because it deals with the environment. And that's very important to us, both local and global issues. And so The Island President deals with that very much. And it looks at the Maldives, which, you know, the film talks about how it's going to be underwater in like 50 years.
Yes.
Or more,
Yeah.
or less. And so, and the president really went all out to all the global conferences to talk about climate change and global warming. And so the whole discussion is about that. And we're going to actually have not only the filmmaker, but a panel discussion after the film so that we can learn more about what's happening in our world today.
So you don't think of South Asia as being a focal point of the environmental crisis. Maldives is sinking. And I think that's what the film talks about, right?
Yes.
So isn't that interesting that we don't think of environmental problems in South Asia? We think of the Arctic and the Antarctic, but never about South Asia? Right.
But we definitely are trying to focus in on South Asia and the Arctic and, you know, the whole globe, you know, including Africa.
What is Third Eye? How did you get the name?
Several reasons. I think initially it was sort of tongue-in-cheek, sort of secularizing something which is spiritual, but also having a sense of internal reflection. That was sort of the premise around it. But also, I think all elements of third, like third world, third cinema, third sex, things like that. We were sort of looking at sort of alternative perspectives.
So it's a catch-all phrase for everything that's alternative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And who
Yes.
came up with that name?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
So you were one of the co-founders?
Yes, me and Camille Romani.
Okay.
Yep.
And you've also involved with other film festivals besides Third Eye. You've also with the Asian Film Festival, right? In San Francisco?
Yes, CAM, Center for Asian American Media.
And what other film festivals?
Well, I mean, that's probably the primary one. But yes, ATA, Artist Television Access Film Festival. I mean, there's so many festivals in San Francisco. And, you know, on the jury of San Francisco Film Society, things like that. But yeah, CAM always had a very rich and deep relationship with Third Eye and its growth.
Do you see a film a day?
Yes, I'm an addict. Yes, definitely.
Do
if
you,
not more.
do you see?
Well, yeah, it depends what you say is film. I mean, yeah, I usually, it's very therapeutic.
And how do you prefer to watch them, on your computer or on the TV?
Well, ideally in a big screen theater. I love that, you know, where the darks are low, the lights are low. But yeah, wherever I can get it, I'll go. I don't do the iPhone, but I'll do the nice computer image or yeah, TV's not really, but.
How many times have you seen Cinema Paradiso?
Once.
That's it?
Yes. I actually, this is one thing. I have a good memory for images, so usually only
What is the opening scene of Cinema Paradiso?
No, that's not a fair question. It's a little boy running towards something or other.
No, it's the screen, the drapes waving.
Oh, okay, okay.
So what was the first film you remember watching as a child?
Oh, Tony Curtis in 180 Days Around the World, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, a Tony Curtis film. Yes. Okay, okay. I wish we had more time. We have run out of time, Yvonne.
No
Thank you so much for stopping by today.
Thank you very much.
And the festival runs from September 19th to the 23rd, Third Eye Film Festival. Films will be shown in San Francisco, and for the first time, they're going to be showing films in San Jose in Camera 12. You can look up their website and find out their program. I'm Kamla. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back with another show. Until then, goodbye.